The year is 2007. The Office is an obscure hipster comedy show. The Disney Channel outfits are overstimulating. Rihanna has a Caribbean aesthetic. The belts are big. The skirts are asymmetrical. Texting costs extra on your phone plan. And most importantly, anyone who's anyone has a Myspace page. I was a teen during what I consider to be Myspace's golden era. I'm talking like 2006 to 2010-ish. It's a beautiful thing when you think about it. Adolescence is so fleeting. It's such a small percentage of your life, but it feels so big and important at the time. And Myspace kind of paralleled that. It was short-lived, but it left a huge impact on its users. Developmentally, customizing your page allowed you to explore different personalities and aesthetics in a pretty low-stakes way. Life was so much simpler when the biggest thing on my mind was how I was going to change my Myspace layout when I got home to the family computer. I didn't have to care about bills or politics or the fact that Rupert Murdoch owned Myspace. Who's Rupert Murdoch? I would have asked. Innocently. Somehow back then, the internet felt much smaller and more under control in a lot of ways. You weren't being bombarded with ads, shop links, calls to action when you were browsing on Myspace. Actually, that's probably why it didn't last, because it wasn't making any money. You weren't constantly being suggested to follow total strangers. You followed your friends and maybe some celebrities or musicians that you cared about. You wouldn't get notifications for every little thing that happened. In fact, notifications were such precious little gems to us that it would give you a massive hit of dopamine if you logged in to see that you had like a new friend request or a message. All right, that's enough of my senior citizen rambling. I'm not all talk, I promise. I'm here to do something crazy. I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. Hold on, I'm gonna recreate every Myspace layout I can remember that I had. Now I know what you're thinking. What are the resources that you're going to use to achieve this feat? Number 1, my freaky long-term memory. Number 2, my old photobucket account. When you wanted to add images or GIFs to your page, you had to get an image URL, and photobucket was one platform that allowed you to do so. So I saved a ton of stuff there, which has given me some really helpful clues as to which layouts I was making and when. I did have to pay $5 to recover all my old photos, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. I guess get your bag, photobucket. Get your bucket, rather. Number 3, since old school Myspace doesn't exist anymore, I'll be using a fan-made recreation of it called Spacehey. It's not exactly the same, but it is really close. Kind of a missed opportunity to call it Our Space though, right? I mean, doesn't that seem like the war turtle of Myspace? And then the Blastoise would be like World Space or like Universe Space, Outer Space Space, Outer Space Space. Why don't I have a job? Hire me, Mark Zuckerberg. Actually don't, I'm good. I'm so good. A couple disclaimers. First, I'm not including pictures or names of any of my friends or boyfriends from the time. They didn't ask to be put on blast like that, and I won't subject them to it. Even though those kind of relationships were a huge part of my identity as a teenager and of like MySpace culture as a whole. I'm just sort of working around that stuff. And second, realistically, I probably had 200 different iterations of my layout over the years that I had Myspace. I have some fractured memories of elements that I sort of fused into a single idea for some of these. I don't really know why I feel the need to say that because no one has any way of fact checking any of this unless you're like a literal time traveler. But yeah, for the sake of authenticity, these are approximations at the end of the day. I haven't made the layouts yet. We're gonna do that together, but I do have a general idea of what I want to do for each of them, and I'm gonna try to do them in chronological order from like earliest to latest. Obnoxious rainbows. This would have been my style during like the transition from 8th to 9th grade or like early 9th grade. This rainbow heart background is really close to one that I specifically remember having. I definitely would have had some kind of colorful GIF, probably a stick figure animation like this lightsaber one. Stick figures were all the rage.
Eat the food.
I also loved making GIFs with Photoshop by saving a bunch of different versions of something with like the color of one thing changed for each frame. I guess I don't remember exactly how I did it back then, but I felt like such a genius.
First off, what's an animated GIF? Animated GIFs are the little moving pictures that you may have seen on websites like Myspace.
This GIF is kind of pixely, but it is authentic vintage from my photobucket account, so I will be using it. I really thought I ate with this one. Like, this was definitely profile pic material. On your page, like next to your picture and your name, there would be this little blurb you could put, and it was called a headline. So people would put things they thought were funny or deep or like their anniversary with their boyfriend or whatever. For this one, let's do like an early Flight of the Conchords thing. I would be willing to bet I did something like that at some point.
Binary solo
0000001
Come on, sucker, lick my battery.
This was a peak time for inside jokes. Having an inside joke with friends was like top tier social currency. So of course I'm gonna flex that in my About Me section. You know I had to have a banger of a song set on my music player. I always saw that as like the thing to communicate whether or not I was a girl of taste. Pretty Rave Girl was an all-time fave for me. If you haven't heard it, it goes like,
I know this pretty rave girl, always think about her, and when she says hi to me, butterflies go right through me, and when I see her dancing, wanna take a chance in getting a little closer.
Editing Meredith here. I'm realizing I should probably explain at some point in the video that you get to be blessed with some Meredith karaoke today. Marioke, if you will. I don't want to get copyright struck or stricken. I don't want to be copyright smited, so I'm just avoiding using any clips of the songs that I'm talking about, so I'm just going to do my own rendition of them. I'm pretty tone deaf, not a singer, honestly not even really a musician, so you're welcome. Strap in and proceed. Some honorable mentions for songs that also could have worked here are Here in Your Arms by Hello Goodbye, Stronger by Kanye West, or Less Talk More Rock by Freeze Pop, which I became obsessed with from Guitar Hero 2. But like, oh my god, my layouts during this phase needed like an epilepsy warning or something. Artsy Black and White. Around this time, one of the most emotionally deep things you could do as a teenager was have a picture in black and white. Bonus points if the picture had like one thing in color. Extra bonus points if that color was red. There was also a big like yelling aesthetic in 2008. Like that sounds so weird to say, but I feel like people will know what I'm talking about. Why was there so much shouting? Anyway, clearly I was on board. The highly off-center subject in a profile picture. Yeah, I was really trying to be artistic here. For a while, I had a really consistent few things that made me recognizable about my appearance, so I probably would have wanted to lean into those. My freshman year, I was often referred to as side ponytail girl because I always wore a side ponytail for some godforsaken reason. I also had a horrible fashion sense, so like I had to make that part of my personality or it would destroy me. Fun fact, this shirt was something I thrifted and it said, "Do the Macarena." For the music choice here, I definitely feel like Dakota by Rocket to the Moon was a standout. It goes like, I know our love is new, I barely know ya, I've fallen over you. Honorable mentions include Bears Make Money, Bulls Make Money, Pigs Get Slaughtered by Chiodos, or Fall For You by Secondhand Serenade. And of course, for the headline blurb, we're gonna bring out a quote from the Rejected Cartoons video that everyone quoted ad nauseum. Truly an iconic work from this time period.
Tuesday's coming. Did you bring your coat? I live in a giant bucket.
Maybe just a little more contrast. Okay, the black and white thing may have been moody and deep, but there was also a time where the absolute coolest thing you could do with your photos was crank the contrast like almost all the way up. It was pretty common for the contrast to be so high that like a white person's face in the photo would just look like totally blank with little dark spots for the eyes and the nostrils. It reminds me of something from like a creepypasta image. I'll try to find what I'm talking about. Yeah, just nightmare fuel. It's really hard for me to look at these pictures now and imagine a time where I thought that this slayed. Like I'm resisting the compulsion to just like turn down the contrast when I see these. It damn near gives me a headache. You also got bonus points if you made like a super exaggerated, goofy expression on your face. Okay, this is another actual graphic I made for my page back in the day. We can still see some remnants of the random era with the blamma blamma and whatnot. Somehow we've increased the shoutiness of everything. I think that my headline blurb would be random as well, so we're gonna go with, oh crap. Oh god, I'm cringing so hard. This was a pretty high energy aesthetic, so I feel like my About Me would be kind of enthusiastic in a way that some of my later styles would not be. I had this friend who was super into Green Day, like she had an entire Green Day themed room. It was so cool. And so she made me some like mix CDs and got me more into Green Day. So we're going Give Me Novocaine, which I know was one of my favorites. It goes like, y'all on kiss goodnight and everything will be alright. Tell me that I won't feel a thing. So give me Novocaine. Honorable mentions include This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arms Race by Fall Out Boy, I'm a Fake by The Used, and Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson because, again, I was a Guitar Hero fiend. Edgelord. My mom was really big into the like techno and rave scene of the 90s, so I grew up with a lot of the like colorful blacklight disco ball kind of vibes. I know from my photobucket detective work that I saved this background image and this lava lamp image in the same day, so I'm pretty positive I used them together. Dragula was also a song that my mom was into that I was exposed to pretty young. That one goes like,
Then I am the sky, watching angels cry, as long as slowly turn, conquering the worm. dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the back of my Dragula.
All right, so we got another high contrast profile picture with a goofy expression. I think I would throw a childhood picture in there. I kind of had that normal teenager thing of like wanting to distance myself from my family, like wanting a little bit more independence, but also still having a lot of nostalgia for my childhood and like mixed feelings about leaving my childhood. And I didn't know how to express those feelings, so they kind of just came out in my Myspace layouts. I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of think that Myspace therapy could be a thing in the way that like D&D therapy and sandbox therapy are a thing. This feels like an era where we would ramble off things we liked without context or explanation. And you know I was absolutely frying my hair into submission with that hair straightener. Not a thermal spray in sight. I can't say for certain, but I'd be willing to bet money that I had like a dozen instances of Nacho Libre quotes across my Myspace having career. Going through a breakup. I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off and start with the cringiest thing about this era. My dumb Photoshop edits. Listen, when I discovered that I could take a photo of a place without me in it and then take the same shot with me in it and then turn the opacity of me down to make it look like I was a ghost, it was game over for you bitches. I really was like, Full Sail University? Please accept me, because I know my shit. I really thought about cropping the words imaginary enemy out of this image before sharing it, because I have no explanation for what's happening. I felt like I just need to be brave and face the reality of what I've done. This is me. This is the real me. Does it scare you? So like, was I calling myself an imaginary enemy? Am I fighting an imaginary enemy? I don't know. I guess art is to be interpreted by the enjoyer. And I'm using the word enjoyer really loosely here because looking at this, I'm in hell. And no, babe, not the Hollister jacket, not the Hollister jacket. I remember one of my emo backgrounds being like a pixel art city at night situation, so we're gonna slap that on here. You can get a little glimpse here of my messy room where I'd spend hours listening to The Smiths and wallowing. Fun fact, this shirt that I thrifted said "Cowboy Butts Drive Me Nuts." The song I can remember being most emo about, like the song that I'm like jamming this on a rainy day with my Walkman walking down the street or like in the car, you know, as I look out the window, was Girl in the Sea by The Presets. This is the kind of band I bring up today. People are like, oh yeah, The Presets. And I'm like, where the fuck were you when I was 15? Because I was listening to this weird shit and I felt like I was the only one. Anyway, Girl in the Sea goes like this.
As she runs towards the sea, yeah, she runs so she'll be free. And of all the friends and enemies she's made along the way, they are nowhere in her thoughts as she dies beneath the waves.
Dramatic much? I think a lot of my big emo low points occurred when I was going through breakups, and I just ended up having like a lot of repressed sadness. Well, I guess not that repressed at all because it's right there. Lots of self-medicating with music during these low points, so yeah, we're just gonna also stick an OK Go lyric in the About Me. Of course I would use a lyric that mentions 80 proof alcohol, knowing full well I hadn't had a drop of alcohol at that point in my life. Classic. Let's go with an angsty Juno quote for the headline. I had not yet become a teen mom at this time, so I guess that's a little bit of foreshadowing. You really had to communicate through these quotes because like, you couldn't just come out and say, I feel weird and bad. That was somehow more cringe, so you had to like speak in code. Quirky. Okay, so this is a fun one. This is gonna be like the total opposite of the breakup layout we just did. I specifically remember having this slime green background with a minimal layout style. The minimal layout style was very in vogue for a while. What you would do is you would like use the HTML code to eliminate a lot of little buttons and like extra stuff that was on your page until it was just like your name, your profile picture, one big artsy picture or two, and maybe like one little sentence. I don't know, it was very cool girl to be like, I don't know, yeah. You don't get to know that much about me. It's whatever, I guess I'm a mystery. The headline and About Me I'm putting here are guesses. So the turtle quote is something that I or my mom or both of us found handwritten on a random dollar bill. I just thought it was so funny. I've thought about it ever since. It just really stuck with me. I loved Taco Bell, and having my Taco Bell order without context here, I would think that was pretty funny. I'm also so glad that this spray can gif was saved in my photobucket. I think it would have been hard to find or reproduce if I didn't have it saved here. This profile picture goes so well with the background background here, so we're gonna stick that here. I specifically remember my profile having, at one point in time, the lime green background, the spinning spray can, and the song This Is For Real by Motion City Soundtrack. That one goes like,
Before my face hits the floor, there's just one thing you should know. This is for real.
Okay, so from here on out, current day me will probably be a lot more approving of the styles. Whether that's because I had good taste as a teen or because I'm in a state of arrested development, we can't be sure. Activist hipster. Okay, so another minimalist style, but this time we've gained awareness for the world. So we're just gonna take that idea and literally use this world map that I found in my photobucket. I do think I would have loved the aesthetic of this background with the simple white. I feel like that's probably why this photo was saved. You know, the 2008 election happened when I was a freshman, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of the casual racism and bigotry that people engage in the South. My family had newly moved to Texas, so I don't know, it was kind of shocking. And just a lot of like really silly opinions. Like there was this person at my school named Reagan, which probably should have been the first red flag. But I remember the day after Obama got elected, this person just like ran down the halls yelling, "They're gonna take my family's money." And I was like, oh man. Yeah, I just got a lot of secondhand embarrassment. I think it made me realize that we don't all think in the same way. And people value different things, which is the nice way to put it. The ESL symbols for my name was something I did, and I thought I was so clever for it. It does kind of eat though. We're gonna slap a Mitch Hedberg quote for the headline. I did start to love him around this time.
I have a cheese shredder at home. That's a positive name for it, cheese shredder. They never call it by its negative name because no one would buy it. Sponge ruiner. Because I wanted to clean it. Now I have little bits of sponge that would melt easily over tortilla chips.
And the revolution will not be televised lyrics for the About Me. Yeah, that fits the vibe. I would have done that shit. This photo was saved in my photo bucket, so I know that I used it at some point, and I think it fits here. I mentioned the movie Juno before, which I was obsessed with, and Sea of Love was on the soundtrack for that movie, so we're gonna stick that here too. That song goes like,
Sea of love, I wanna tell you how much I love you.
Film girl hipster. In high school, my best friends and I had this thing where we would hang out once a week and watch a new to us movie, and we called it Project Mayhem, named after a cult from my favorite movie at the time, Fight Club. And here I'll be entering into a brief tangent in defense of the movie Fight Club. People say loving the movie Fight Club is a dog whistle for being an insufferable, libertarian, weirdo, hypermasculine film bro. While that may be true in some cases, I do not think that's the fault of the story of Fight Club. Personally, Fight Club was my introduction to themes of existentialism and nihilism, which ultimately was a positive discovery for me and for my mental health. In my high school English class, we had to write like a 10 or 20 page essay about a topic of our choice. I chose to write about existentialism in Chuck Palahniuk's book, namely Fight Club and Choke. Fight Club explores the extremes on a spectrum of embracing and rejecting societal pressures. The story starts by leading us to have an attitude of disdain towards normal consumption and behavior. Through the eyes of our unnamed protagonist, these societal guardrails feel stifling, inane, and at worst maliciously oppressive.
If X is less than the cost of a recall, we don't do one.
Are there a lot of these kinds of accidents?
You wouldn't believe.
So we follow our protagonist through a rejection of those pressures, which eventually becomes an anarchic cult, which is stifling, inane, and maliciously oppressive.
It's enough, maggots. You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake.
Tyler Durden, our antagonist, red villain. Red, we are not rooting for him. At times comes across as charismatic and magnetic, but he is also pretentious, hateful, and self-serving. He enlightens our protagonist with animalistic violence and anti-establishment axioms. In the end, the protagonist must kill him. When he and Marla Singer watch the city explode into flames, and there's a sense of hope, it is not because the city is exploding. It's not because of destructive terrorism. It's because Tyler Durden is dead. When you're faced with the possibility of your world ending, you start to think maybe normal is okay. Maybe mundane is okay. Maybe IKEA furniture and meaninglessness are okay. So yeah, I think if you walk away from this movie with some weird idea of pro-hyper masculinity, then it's 1000% on you. And liking Fight Club is not a red flag as long as you understand it, which you should. So anyway, as a former film girl hipster, TM. Definitely not like that anymore. Movies were a pretty big deal to me. I also wanted to be a professional film editor from ages like 9 to 20. The movies we watched were like so much headier than what I normally watch right now. A lot of Wes Anderson, Lars and the Real Girl, Garden State, Son of Rambo, Charlie Bartlett, Rushmore. Fight Club quote for the headline. Self-deprecating about me. Okay, here we go. Neutral Milk Hotel for the song, Holland to 1945. If you haven't listened to the album In the Aeroplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel, it alludes very heavily to stories from Anne Frank and other historical accounts from the Holocaust. It's especially poignant in a time like now where there is an active genocide occurring that a lot of us feel really powerless to stop. Even like in my own country, in my own state, where Americans are being terrorized by ICE. There are a lot of parallels, so as emotional as this album was for me to listen to when I was 16, it's much, much more so today. I've been recreating all of these Myspace songs in my own shitty style, but like, it feels kind of wrong to recreate this one and butcher it. If there's no clip of it after this, then you'll know I decided not to try, and if there is a clip, I guess I made it work somehow. Your mother sleeps, and here is the room where your brothers were born. Indentions in the sheets, where there's bodies once moved but don't move anymore. This is another bit of a tangent, but a few months ago I found this YouTube video that had been uploaded 16 years ago, and it's just like this group of kids at a lake doing a cover of Holland 1945. The only girl I've ever loved was born with roses in her eyes. It makes me feel a lot of things. It's just so wholesome. You look at this group of kids and it feels like they could just be your friends from high school. Like this could have been you. It's just such a snapshot of time, and I'm so glad it exists. Something kind of funny is that there's this pink-haired person in the background of the video that kind of looks like me, so I don't know, watching it creates this eerie feeling that I'm a time traveler that has accidentally appeared in the background of some old footage. True hipster. I call this one true hipster in the sense that, like, if this was all on a D&D character alignment chart, this would be the exact center of the spectrum. I guess it's kind of hard to pinpoint, like, what that means or what markers indicate that. I guess it's more of a feeling I have than anything. Slightly grainy, candid photos that are cropped strangely and are trying to feel candid but are clearly staged, scratchy handwriting, striped shirt, old shoes, plaid sheets. Oh, shot in a dark room with the flash on. Oh man, I was so ahead of the curve for that one. Like, that's totally a thing people try to do today, right? Also, these were not real Polaroids. I edited them in Photoshop to look that way. As previously stated, I feel like this is the precursor to like Tumblr hipster style. I mean, this era did kind of overlap with the Tumblr hipster style, but just like with architecture and fashion style eras, sometimes the lines can be a little blurred as far as like start and end dates. We gotta go with an Arctic Monkeys lyric for the headline. They were originally really popular overseas in like Europe, and it was really slow to migrate over to the US, so there was a period of time in between where liking Arctic Monkeys as an American was like very, very niche. By the way, I feel like this should go without saying, but I should probably say this, that when I talk that way about my taste back then, I'm making fun of myself. I probably should have said that way earlier, actually. Let's go with the Kooks for the song. I don't know if it was just me and my friends, but the British obsession that we had at the time was real. This one goes like, not saying it was your fault, although we could have done more. You're so naive, yes, so. I've been trying to look for a background image for this one, and like nothing feels right. Back in the day, you had these sites where you could scroll background images and like filter them by type, and they all sort of lent themselves well to a background image for MySpace in the sense that like sometimes they could seamlessly repeat. But now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like leaving the background image out and just having the plain gray here like works for this one. We did do that, some of us. We just left the background image off as like a stylistic choice with like the minimalist style, of course, because you know we had to personalize it a little bit. Yeah, I guess if there was going to be a place to do this plain gray background, it would be here. It would be for true hipster. Hipster Heartfelt. So I think this is an evolution of the previous like less mature hipster styles. This is like so pedantic, it's crazy. I think this reflects a version of teenage me that is a little more secure, a little more accepting of the hills and valleys of life. I remember that I really loved this image of the marching band percussion section doing our little like pre-show huddle. I was not a super gifted musician, but I loved performing and I loved the community of band. I think towards the end of high school, I really started to become more sentimental about it and realized that it was going to be over soon and nothing like that would ever happen again. I think I also sort of became more okay with bad photos of myself. At some point, I started to find them charming and authentic. I really struggled as a teen. I mentioned before that I became a teen mom at some point. I could definitely tell that there were some people at my church and school that were judging me pretty hard for it, even though they tried to hide it. Even separate from that, I had this reputation among my friends for being really ditzy. I don't really think people believed in me that much, and I think it hurt my feelings more than I let on. But when you're forced to grow up very quickly, like when you realize you're pregnant at 17, you sort of also have to quickly learn to accept when things are imperfect and live in harmony with them. I guess that's sort of the esoteric vibe I'm trying to convey here. This background image I had saved on photobucket, so it is authentic vintage. I don't know if it's my hometown or a random place. I looked at it for a really long time and I couldn't really figure it out. Okay, side story, I've always wanted to fight my RBF, so I've always tried to smile a little bit at people so that they know that I'm friendly and approachable. But this one time in high school, an acquaintance of mine was going around talking shit about me, saying that I was creepy because I smiled too much. To this day, I think that is the most ridiculous thing to say about someone, and this person is still a bully in their 30s, so whatever. Fuck you, Some of the best years of my life were spent riding around town with my best friend in her little car, so we're gonna shout that out in the headline. For the song, I really want to pick something that captures that feeling of bittersweet, nihilistic acceptance. And so, for our last layout, the song I pick is Neighborhood Number 1, parentheses Tunnels by Arcade Fire. And that one goes like,
sometimes we remember bedrooms and our parents' bedrooms and the bedrooms of our friends. Then we think of our parents. Oh, whatever happened to them?
I originally forgot to film an outro, and now I don't feel like doing my hair or makeup, so I wanted to make this video because when you search on the internet for like old MySpace aesthetics, there's a lot of things that have just been lost to time, it feels like. I wanted to document these things on the internet that I could remember before they're just gone forever. People are always talking about your digital footprint and how everything on the internet lasts forever, and that's just not true. Things on the internet cost money to support, and if there's no demand for that, they're going to stop being supported. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed getting this little glimpse into what it was like to be a teenager during the MySpace era, and I genuinely hope that other people can sort of like make similar stuff. Give me the nostalgia, give me the history. If you made it this far in the video, I'm impressed. Thank you so much for watching. The t-shirt that I was wearing in the beginning of the video is one that I designed for a design contest, and it has all these like old internet references. It says, "Internet, you were once my escape, now I must escape from you." I do have 2 left over on my website, meredithhoagie.com, if you wanted to grab one. Okay, see you later.